A couple of months ago, we took a look at the live-action adaptation of Kaguya-Sama Love is War, a movie that's been widely panned online as a cringe fest, I think undeservingly. The choice of actors was spot on, with everyone looking eerily like they did in the show. The sets were also pretty good, if not a little empty feeling. The problems I have with the movie come down to pacing and its overall story. The first half of the movie adapted the events of season 1 of the anime, while for the remaining hour runtime, they decided to go off the rails, changing the election arc entirely. They neglected Miko Ino and instead pitted Kaguya against Miyuki, and in the end they made their own ending rent-a-girlfriend style. I was surprised to learn that there was a sequel to this movie entitled Kaguya-Sama Love is War Final. The movie covers seasons 2 and 3 of the show, but not well. It starts off with the introduction of Miko Ino as well as the sports festival arc, and this is where I start to have problems with the development of certain characters. Let's just call this the character assassination of Miko Ino and Yu Ishigami. Miko starts off similarly to how she is in the show, being a stickler for the rules, but at a certain point she just becomes one of Chika's goons, a role that was denoted to a couple of the side characters in the anime. She hardly gets her own scenes, and when she does, they don't serve her character at all. With Yu's backstory and arc, however, it's done okay, but there's a glaring moment towards the end of the movie that pretty much ruins it all, but we'll get to that eventually. So with the sports festival, it goes pretty much the same, except the karaoke/group date from season 3 is moved to the middle of the sports festival for whatever reason, and Ishigami also becomes a cheerleader for completely different reasons, having Miyuki essentially forcing him to do it instead of encouraging him to seek new horizons on his own. Once we get to Ishigami's backstory, things start to change quite a bit. Otoko's boyfriend was not simply cheating on her, but instead promised guys that he'll roofie her so they can have their way with her. What's with all of these J-drama anime adaptations and rape? We also get another example of Kaguya's bullshit future technology where she can get a perfect 3D scan of somebody's face with a bullhorn, it looks like, so she can create a perfect mask for Miyuki to wear so he can trick the boys that wanted to rape Otoko into confessing. Now in the anime, they didn't really go in depth about how the student council came to their conclusion that Ishigami was innocent, but I feel like not knowing served the story better than this pseudo Mission Impossible fanfic. Otoko also never shows up to the festival, meaning Ishigami is just missing out on his driving force to try for the first time. Instead, he's given his strength from Miyuki believing in him or something, but it just doesn't hit the same, honestly. The hurdles to actually watch this movie ended up being higher than I anticipated. I watched season 2 of the anime thinking that would cover enough ground, but by the time I got to the 50-minute mark, the sports festival was over with an hour of the movie to spare. The exact same thing happened in movie 1, and it made some of the points in my last video a little bit moot, because they did cover the election arc, but did it completely differently. So to avoid being spoiled and to avoid this video being pointless, I reluctantly watched all of season 3. Not that I regret it, season 3 was pretty good. So going back to the movie, the culture festival portion of the story is over in about 20 minutes, and they give the climactic kiss scene a good 10 minutes. During the culture festival segment, after the bonfire is lit, Ishigami gives Tsubame a heart, which she accepts, something that just straight up never happened in the show. And I'm fairly certain nothing came of that in the manga either. We're also given another scene with the Kaguya family doctor that is just as random as the first movie, wherein he replaces the ramen connoisseurs from the anime and tries to critique Kaguya's knowledge of coffee. Instead of her wowing him with her tea brewing skills, Hayasaka just kind of tells him to be quiet and he calls her cute. A little bit weird, but okay. After that, the crystal is stolen from the dragon and Miyuki's game begins. Chika still tries to investigate, but her partner ends up being Miko Ino, in stark contrast to her entire character in the anime. In the show, she's such a hard ass, she spends the entire culture festival patrolling the school grounds instead of actually enjoying it. But here, she's just running around being a nuisance. Miko from the anime would hate Miko from this movie. Aside from that, things pretty much go the same right up until Miyuki asks Kaguya to go to America with him. In the anime, she almost immediately agrees, but in the movie, she rejects him, disappearing for 4 months after that. So we've hit the end of season 3 pretty much, but there's still about 10 minutes left in the runtime, and they made their own ending. Are you surprised? So Miyuki hops on a freighter headed for America for a 2-week boat ride, I guess because he's poor or something. Once he arrives at the school, he's shocked to see Kaguya's last name on one of the buildings, and he asks the student why it's there. He says it's a gift from our vice president, and he heads inside only to find Kaguya in uniform standing in the student council room. She planned the entire thing out as yet another scheme, and at this point they're kind of betraying all of the development that was given to Kaguya and Miyuki up to this point. By the time the culture festival was over, Kaguya was done trying to make him confess to her and just wanted to get it over with. So by doing this, it just makes them completely different characters. Kaguya then tells them that the empty seat is available for the president, implying that she bought her and Miyuki's way onto the student council, making this a dictatorship. So yeah, they completely changed the story so Miyuki and Kaguya both go to America and attend, well, it's not Stanford like in the anime, it's SFIT, the college from Big Hero 6? No, it's a made-up college called the San Francisco Institute of Technology, and it's described as the best school in the world, and Kaguya says even she would have trouble applying there. You know, one of the richest girls in the world. can't go to a school in San Francisco. Anyways, all that aside, this movie keeps the same general formula from the last one, the same kind of anime reactions, the same weird segments where their heads are sized up and they're put in cartoon worlds. It's pretty much just more of the same. What we're missing out on this time, even more than the last movie, is the individual "I will make you fall in love with me" schemes. You know, the thing that makes Love is War, Love is War. Do I think this movie is bad? No. In a vacuum, this and the first movie could honestly stand on their own, but presented next to two way better ways to experience this awesome story, they kind of look like a joke. The only thing redeeming the movie is the actors. You can clearly tell they're having fun and they're doing their best with what they're given. I think a lot of what makes these movies cringe, quote unquote, is down to the directing and editing choices. If you're a fan of Love is War, I still absolutely think it's worth checking out. Of course, there are still unexplainable scenes like Miyuki's dad trying to be a YouTuber so he can make ad rev money to go gambling with. We also get another gratuitous bikini shot of Chika that just doesn't need to be there. And yeah, I'm starting to become unnerved by the Kaguya family doctor at this point too. But hey, it was better than the Rent-A-Girlfriend live action's ending. Mainly because they didn't roofie Kaguya. I mean, they did roofie somebody, but nobody cares about that bitch.